Hello students, good evening. Very warm welcome to our foundation lectures in mathematics. So before we start with the discussion on today's lecture, so just tell me how many of you have gone through the lecture on Euclid geometry, introduction to Euclid geometry. Is there anyone? Okay. So can you guys tell me how many of you have gone through the discussion on introduction to Euclid geometry's lectures? Just you could ping me on the chat session. Hello. Good evening guys. Are you listening to me? Okay, Nihita. So Nihita has listened to the lectures. So have you understood the introduction lectures? Both of the introduction lectures? Okay. Even Hemant Sriram as well. Okay. See, tomorrow's exam paper is very easy. Okay. If you have gone through your video lectures, then you will be able to get centum 100%. Okay. So you need not worry that the videos have been delayed, because the paper has been concentrated more on the discussion whatever we have had in the previous two classes. So just in case if you have any doubts, again go through that. Okay guys, so let's continue with our today's discussion. Okay, so in our previous lecture we are discussing about the Euclid's postulates. Okay, there are 5 Euclid's postulates we are about to discuss, and we have discussed some of them. So again, let's have a quick recap of whatever we have discussed, and then we'll continue further on top of the discussion whatever we had. So Euclid's 5 postulates. So what is the postulate 1 we have discussed in our last discussion? Is a straight line may be drawn from one point to any other point. See guys, a straight line may be drawn from one point to any other point. What it is saying, so suppose if A is a point, A is any point, choose anything randomly, and B is another point. Okay, I can choose this also randomly different from A. Then postulate 1 says that you could draw a straight line joining these two. See, here we are not talking about how many straight lines you could draw from joining from one point to the other. In fact, it will be 1, but still the postulate 1 talks only that there is the possibility that we could draw a line joining two different points. Okay students, and then let's move to the postulate 2. Okay, before that, look at the axiom. Given two distinct points, there is a unique line that passes through them. See, in this axiom 5.1, what it is stated is, if you are given two distinct points P and Q, okay, then it states that there is a unique line. So first postulate doesn't talk about how many lines that could be drawn joining those two given points, but this axiom 5.1 is talking about that how many lines you could draw means there is a unique line. Unique means single line. See, through any given point you could draw infinite number of lines. Similarly, through any given point you could draw infinite number of lines, but out of those infinite, only one of them would pass through two distinct points. Okay, so always if you are given two distinct points, there is a unique line. Okay, postulate 1 talks about there is a line, whereas this axiom 5.1 is talking about uniqueness. Okay, there are no lines more than 1 or less than 1. And then what is postulate 2? A terminated line can be produced indefinitely. Okay, a terminated line can be produced indefinitely, as it looks obvious, right? Produce this indefinitely in both directions. Okay, student, what is the difference between the postulate and the axiom? Postulate is a term, okay, which is used for geometry, in especially in geometry, whereas axiom is a term, it is used generally in mathematics. Okay, why do we use these terms postulate and axiom? See, sometimes if you try to define some words, okay, you'll end up with a chain of definitions. Okay, so to avoid that, okay, some things which we feel obvious, which we feel obviously without things, we'll call it as postulates or axioms. And postulates is a term we use only for in the reference of geometry, whereas axiom is the general thing, okay, used for such terms in mathematics. So postulate 2 is a terminated line can be produced indefinitely in both ways. And then postulate 3, a circle can be drawn with any center and any radius. What is given is a circle can be drawn with any center and any radius. Again, this looks obvious, right? See, pick any center, choose center of your own, okay, and again choose random radius, that is measure with a scale. Center means what? Choosing a random point, and then choose a random measure, that is length, okay, and then pick a compass, measure it with equal to the radius whatever you have chosen, and then draw a circular arc using C as center and measure whatever you have chosen as radius. So obviously you have ended up drawing as a circle, okay, and since the center whatever you have picked is random and radius you have picked at your own will, so that means you could draw a circle, okay, with any center and any radius. So this is what our postulate 3 says. And then postulate 4, all right angles are equal to one another. See, what it says is, say suppose if you look at a triangle, right angle triangle, say ABC, and say this another right angle triangle PQR, and say this angle is 90, okay, and this angle is also 90. So what it states is that, see here we are saying angle B is 90 degrees and angle P is 90 degrees, okay, though these diagrams look a bit different, but postulate 4 says that all right angles are equal to one another, means the measure of this angle and the measure of this angle, okay, they are equal. See, as we have also discussed, all these postulates mostly they refer to the notion of magnitude. Magnitude means the measurements, okay, so all right angles are equal to one another. And then if a straight line falling on two straight lines, this is a very very important postulate, guys. If a straight line falling on two straight lines makes the interior angles on the same side of it, makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than two right angles, then the two straight lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on that side on which the sum of angles is less than two right angles. Students, once again read this. What they are trying to say is, once again read this postulate 5. Okay. If a straight line falling on two straight lines, okay, makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than two right angles, means suppose there are two straight lines and there is a third straight line falling on these two straight lines, okay, falling on these two straight lines, and he is saying that if makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than two right angles, then two straight lines if produced indefinitely meet on that side on which the sum of angles is less than two right angles. So can you tell me what is, see, he is trying to depict this following situation. See, in this following situation, if you look at the interior angles on the same side of this line L, say this is L1 and this is L2, and say L is your third line, and if you measure the interior angles, obviously they are looking like they are acute, I mean they are less than 90 degrees. So if you sum them, okay, you will find that the sum is less than 2 right angles. So see, less than 2 right angles, when you will come across the case when these two lines are not parallel. See, if L1 and L2 are parallel, if L1 and L2 are parallel, then obviously, okay, this sum taken together is not less than 2 right angles. Since L1 and L2 are, I mean L1 and L2 are not going to be parallel if the sum of the interior angles is less than 2 right angles. So we'll learn about this in detail. Just try to remember this postulate. It's very, very important. We'll be discussing most of our today's class about the postulate 5 itself. See, for example, line PQ. Say this is your third line, and say it is falling on two lines AB and CD. Okay. Say it is falling on lines AB and CD, and such that the interior angles, see here, what are the interior angles? This is the interior angle and this is another interior angle, right? And you need to consider interior angles on the same side. Okay, you shouldn't consider on different sides. So 1 and 2 are interior angles on same side. Similarly, say 3 and 4 are interior angles on same side. So you could consider either 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 pairs. So it is up to you. Now in the fifth postulate, what he is saying is that if this 1 plus 2 is less than 2 right angles, that is twice of 90 degrees. 2 right angles means twice of 90 degrees, that is less than 180 degrees. Okay, if 1 plus 2 is less than 180 degrees, then what postulate 5 is saying is that these two lines AB and CD, when produced, they meet at a certain point. Okay. So for these two lines to meet at a certain point, it is imperative that some of the interior angles taken on one side, okay, they should be less than 180 degrees. So for example, line PQ falls on the lines AB and CD such that the sum of the interior angles 1 and 2 is less than 180 degrees. Obviously, right, this is looking less than 180 degrees, right? On the left side of PQ, therefore the lines AB and CD will eventually intersect on the left side of PQ. Okay, students. Now let's continue with this. See, nowadays postulates and axioms are terms that are used interchangeably and in the same sense. Postulate is used as a verb. When we say let us postulate, we mean let us make some statement based on the observed phenomena. Though we can't define it clearly, let us make some statement which we will accept it as universal truth. So its truth or validity is checked afterwards. We'll take it for granted. If it is true, then it is accepted as a postulate. Okay. A system of axioms. This is a very, very important concept. A system of axioms is called consistent. It's called consistent if it is impossible to deduce from these axioms a statement that contradicts any axiom or previously proved statement. A system of axioms is called consistent if it is impossible to deduce from these axioms a statement that contradicts any axiom or previously proved statement. See, for example, say let's make a general statement that, see, because whenever we walk on a earth, it looks like a plane surface, isn't it? So let's make an assumption that earth is flat. Okay, say that's an axiom, isn't it? Now what I'm trying to make a statement, earth is flat. Now students, now if earth is flat, okay, and since it is a, since it is some finite object, okay, object of finite size, then somewhere if you keep walking at some end, you will find something like you should fall down, right? Say if earth is flat and if you keep walking, So somewhere at ends you should fall down, isn't it? So looking at this evidence of these statements, your assumption, what is your assumption? The statement what you have made, the axiom that earth is flat, that is false, isn't it? So here the statement that you made that earth is flat is inconsistent. What do we say is inconsistent, means it doesn't satisfy. A system of axioms, we call it as consistent only if it is impossible to deduce from these axioms a statement that contradicts any axiom. Whereas in this example we are deducing that it's contradicting, because you walk, okay, any distance, you will not fall. So it proves that earth is not flat and earth is round in nature. So when any system of axioms is given, it needs to be ensured that system is consistent. So whatever statements you will make, so one statement on top of other, everything should be consistent with one another, because from one statement if you will be able to prove the other statement is wrong, then the system of statements is inconsistent. Okay, so we can't rely on such a model of or such a system of statements. So we need to be very very careful, and mathematics is one such beautiful subject. It has been built on a consistent system of statements, okay, which we feel as obvious, and you, I mean with those assumption of universal statement, you will never be able to prove something as wrong. In fact, even historically or mathematically, pedagogically, if you look at the statements, like to prove 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, there is a nearly 600 page proof, students, to prove this, though we are accepting this as universal truth, isn't it? This we are accepting it as an axiom, but still if you try to dig out the proof for this, there is 600 page proof proving this, and even in that also at some point you will be coming across the statements which are consistent. So anyway, a system of axioms is called consistent if it is impossible to deduce from these axioms a statement that contradicts any axiom or previously proved statements. So after Euclid stated his postulates and axioms, he used them to prove other results. Then using these results, he proved some more results by applying deductive reasoning. This is again very very important. So especially not only Euclid, Greeks, they emphasized more on deductive reasoning rather than accepting results directly. Okay, deductive reason means they didn't accept anything like any new thing or any technology, okay, as it comes. They always used to go with deductive reasoning. Okay, the statements that were proved are called propositions or theorems. So now tell me one thing, there are 4 words, 5 words, whatever we came across, like definitions, axioms, or postulates, and then propositions or theorems. See, definition is what we try to define something, we are explaining something, so it is verbosity, okay. And what about the axioms or postulates? These are assumed statements, assumed to be true, but where proof, we will not be proving that, okay. And then propositions or theorem means for which we will be giving a detailed proof, okay. Propositions or theorems, okay, these proofs can rely on these axioms or postulates in turn, but assuming these as true, propositions or theorems, they need to have a detailed proof. If something is looking obvious also, that is not valid in case of these propositions and theorem. Each and every line, each and every statement you need to prove logically, okay. So you need to be very very careful with this, proving this. So that is the main difficult part of this proving theorems, okay. Your logic should be very very clear, unless you will use these axioms or postulates, okay, in between. So anyway, we'll be looking at many theorems, since anyway we have started with this series of lectures at geometry. It takes a couple of months, so we'll be learning many interesting properties as well down the line. So Euclid deduced 465 propositions in a logical chain using his axioms, postulates and definitions and theorems, okay, proved earlier in this chain. So in the next few chapters on geometry, you will be using these axioms to prove some theorems, students. And one more thing, initially in the first lecture I have said you that there are 23 definitions which Euclid has made related to this, and we have discussed only 7 of them. Still you could find even the rest also we have tried to include in our material, so you could refer to our foundation material, and hope you are doing all the questions from that, okay. So please make sure that you will do with all those questions from there. In our material, even entire textbook questions have been covered, so you need not worry about your NCERT or your school syllabus, because it covers more compared to, I mean, it covers your academic part as well as the competitive part required. So lay strict emphasis on solving our foundation material, okay. Even whenever possible, I am trying to cover most of the material from our foundation material in the form of exams and work sessions. Even from your end, I would ask you to take this seriously. So let's look at an example 1. This is again picked from your textbook itself. So if A, B and C are 3 points on a line and B lies between A and C, okay, then you are asked to prove that AB plus BC is equal to AC. See, given that A, B, C are 3 points on a same straight line. See, this is again very important. All these 3 points are on a same line, and it is given that B lies between A and C. Now your job is to prove that AB plus BC is equal to AC. So in the figure, okay, let me redraw that. So in the figure, so B is a point that lies between A and C, right? So in the figure given above, AC coincides with AB plus BC, isn't it? AC, you could write it as sum of AB plus BC. Okay. Now look at the Euclid's axiom 4. It says that things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. Here AB plus BC is coinciding with AC. So using Euclid's axiom 4, we could say that AC is equal to AB plus BC. See, here is the tricky part in geometry. See, directly by looking at this, I have written here AC is equal to AB plus BC because it is looking as obvious, isn't it? So those things which are looking as obvious have been listed down as the postulates in geometry by Euclid. Okay. So that is where he has started exactly from the groundwork. He hasn't missed out anything. Okay. So Euclid's axiom 4 says that things which coincide with one another, because here if you look at this, AC is coinciding with AB plus AC. So things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. So now using that, you could deduce that AB plus BC is equal to AC. See here, equality, the relation of equality he has deduced from coincidence. Okay. And then he is not talking more about the coincidence, because that is where this postulate, the definition of postulate is coming into picture. Something which looks as obvious, we are assuming it as universal truth. So those are such statements which we are calling as postulates. So now in this solution, there is a unique line passing through 2 points, right? Obviously, right, there is a unique line. See, you need to prove that AB plus BC is equal to AC. Yet simple. If you are able to use that fourth axiom, then you are done. So this part is very important, highlighting this axiom 4. Okay. Then look at example 2. Prove that an equilateral triangle can be constructed on any given line segment. Okay. Now, so first of all, he is asking to construct an equilateral triangle. Is it possible or not? That is the question. On any given line segment. So start with a given line segment. So consider a line segment of any length of your random choice. Say AB is the line segment. And now what we'll do is, how to construct an equilateral triangle? What you'll do is, choose A as your center, that is put your compass needle at A, and then choose AB as radius, and with AB as radius draw a circular arc. Okay, draw a circular arc. You could extend it in both ways. And similarly with B as center and put your needle at B and AB as radius, draw again the circular arc. Okay, so if you will try to draw the circular arcs, you will observe that these two circular arcs would intersect at some points. In fact, they be intersecting one above and one below. Now join this point to A and B. See, if you will join this point, students, see, since this measure is nothing but it is the radius AB, whatever you have chosen, right? It is by construction, because you have chosen the radius of this arc as AB. So AC would be equal to AB by construction. And not only that, this BC also you have constructed in such a way that BC is equal to AB. And you could observe that all these three sides are equal. So hence ABC is an equilateral triangle. Similarly underneath also, you will find that AC dash is equal to BC dash is equal to this AB. So by simple construction, you are able to form two equilateral triangles. Okay. And here we haven't used anything extra condition. Simply we have constructed it by choosing a given line segment, right? So depending on the line segment length, you will be choosing your compass radius. So on any given line segment, depending on the length, on any given line segment, you could construct an equilateral triangle, right? So here you need to do some construction using Euclid's postulate 3. You can draw a circle with point A as the center and AB as the radius. See, here actually we are drawing it. Directly we are drawing the circular arc, isn't it? But what is the guarantee that you will be able to draw it? Obviously it is looking like an obvious fact, right? So that obvious, but which we can't prove that it would happen every time. So that is what Euclid has listed in the list of postulates. Okay, students, hope this is clear. So if you could catch this, then your job is done, and then rest is a very simple. Since you are anyway good at mathematics, so you will be able to do the rest. So the main essence of this chapter is whatever looks as obvious has been listed in the list of postulates. So you need to be very, very careful with all the postulates which have been listed, and you need to be carefully highlight that, okay, whenever you are solving the questions. So the point where you are highlighting it carries the essence, okay, for the problems in this chapter. Okay, students, so with this discussion, so just let me know in case if you guys are having any doubts till here. Akshaya, Shraddha, Deepta. So are you guys having any doubts so far? I think anyway we are running out of time. So prepare well, again go through these discussions. Okay guys, so try to write your exam very well. Tomorrow's exam is very easy. Just go through your lectures, okay, and go through your textbook or foundation material. Okay students, but from next lecture there are very, very important series of lectures.